Hi Periscopers, how are we all tonight? Welcome to my Periscope tonight. Introduce yourself, let me know who you are, and we'll get started in a sec once more people jump on board. So I actually wanted to ask a question tonight to get everybody talking. We're going to talk about diabetes, obviously, in a sec, once people come in. I wanted to ask, do you know a family member or a relative that has type 2 diabetes? So if you do, make sure you put me, or me, a hand up. Life of the cat. How cute. So yeah, I was asking the question, guys, do you know of anyone in your family that has type 2 diabetes or even friends? And let me know if you can hear me, because it says my headphones are on mute. Oh, hang on. Is that better? Can you hear me, guys? Oh, try that. You do hear me? Cool. All right, I take off the microphone. Just because my phone was saying that the volume was down. Yes, you can hear me. Cool. Awesome. So to go on what I was saying before, guys, I was just asking the question, does anyone out there have family members or friends or relatives that you know that has type 2 diabetes? Just so we can get a ballpark of, how people out there. What's really interesting that it was World Diabetes Day in Australia just on Saturday, which is 2 days ago. And I noticed that Health Rewards, who I'm speaking for today, has done a lot of posts about Diabetes Day. Oh, me, everyone's saying me, great. Okay, so not great that the people that you know have diabetes, but great that we have a little bit of background on diabetes so that, the conversation can flow. So like I said, I'm talking for Health Rewards, and they were doing a lot of promo about diabetes this weekend because it's World Diabetes Day, or was on Saturday. So I thought, why not take this chance to help people out there that want to avoid type 2 diabetes through simple lifestyle changes, yeah? I'm sorry, whoever's talking in a different language there, I don't know what you're saying. So if you can put it in English, I'll respond. Otherwise, I'm sorry. Okay, so let's get started. Who am I? I'm Gabrielle Maston. So Gabrielle Maston from GabrielleMaston.com. I'm a nutritionist, dietitian, exercise physiologist. And so my speciality is helping people like you guys improve your health through diet and exercise, okay? So let's get started. I want to hear your ideas on how you think you can reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes. So if you've got any ideas, put them up in the comments, because hopefully I'll say them. Diabetes is principal problem in health in Mexico. Yes, it is. It's actually a biggest problem across the world. In Australia, I think it's 65% of the population either has pre-diabetes or diabetes. So let's have a look at the difference. So pre-diabetes is what? Calorie counting is a good idea. Pre-diabetes is like, let's say, 2 years away from being diabetic. So normally people pick this up in a blood test. They have insulin resistance, then pre-diabetes, and then they become full-blown diabetic. And yes, soft drink. We want to avoid soft drink if we want to avoid or lower our risk of type 2 diabetes. So I've got to be careful with my language today, because we can't avoid diabetes because it's partly genetic. But what we can do is reduce our risk. So we can be as healthy as we can, and fingers crossed, by being as healthy as we can lower our risk of getting diabetes. Now, for those out there that didn't know, there's 2 types of diabetes. That's why I was really, direct about which type I was going to talk about. Type 1 is actually a genetic autoimmune condition. So it can affect anyone, because it's genetic. Where the type 2 diabetes is more what we call a lifestyle-related condition. So it's more developed because of the types of choices that we make in our lifestyle, and also sometimes it can be medically induced as well. And yes, great, that's another good one, diet. So a couple of people have already given suggestions on how to reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes. The first one was calorie counting, another one was diet, and there was a third one that I can't remember. Not having soft drinks. So they're all great. Hi, welcome. Don't get fat. Well, yeah, we say maintain a healthy body weight if you can. Okay. Hi from Turkey. Welcome. All right. So my top tips are, the first one is control the portions of your meals. Okay. Because when we have big meals, obviously we're eating more. And so I'll explain what happens when we eat. When we eat, our body releases a hormone called insulin. You've probably heard about insulin release and all the rest of that. Do insulin levels increase with a healthier diet? No. So a healthier diet should actually theoretically lower your insulin levels. And we'll get through insulin in a sec. But whoever said about exercise more, totally correct. So exercising more reduces your risk of type 2 diabetes. And funnily enough, almost every single chronic health condition there is that plague humankind. So heart disease, blood pressure, cholesterol, obesity, all of that, and even depression is improved when people exercise. So we reduce our risk of all-cause diseases. Okay, if you think so. All right, so like I was saying, so each time we eat, so let's use the example of eating a banana. When we eat a banana, we digest the food, the carbohydrates go into our blood, and the body starts to break it down. So it starts to break down the starches, the sugars, and starts to shuttle it around, okay? And the way that the body shuttles that glucose from our tummy, our digestive system, to our working muscles for us to do bicep curls and walk around all day, is it does it through a hormone called insulin. So think about insulin is like a bus carrying school kids to their school, yeah? The bus carries the kids from their home to the school. Well, insulin, oh, hi, welcome, yeah. Oh, your son has type 1. Okay, today we're talking about type 2, so we just did the difference between the two. So let me explain a nerve damage. Okay, I'll get onto that. Let me just write a note. Nerve damage. Okay, so what I was explaining was insulin is that bus that carries the kids or carries the glucose from the digestive system to our working muscles. Okay, and what can happen is that sometimes our insulin doesn't work as well. Or what can happen when people end up being on injectables towards the end stages of type 2 diabetes is that their pancreas starts to give out. So the place that, using our metaphor again, the place that actually builds the bus starts to break down. And so we need external buses to come in and start carrying that glucose for us. So having high levels of insulin in the body is technically not a good thing if it happens chronically. So everybody ends up having high insulin levels at some period in time because when we eat, remember, insulin is released. So if we have something that's very high in carbohydrates, like something really sugary like lollies or like half a loaf of bread or something like that, our insulin levels are going to go up, and so are our blood sugar levels, and then they're going to come down. Okay, so that's what happens in normal people. I wouldn't say normal, got to be politically correct, someone that doesn't have type 2 diabetes. And also, okay, I'll talk about that. But, so people that have diabetes, that sort of system doesn't work very well. Okay, now someone asked about nerve damage. Yes, so in the not end stages, when people have had diabetes, type 2 diabetes for a very long period of time, they get really bad circulation, okay? And lay off the alcohol. Yes, that decreases risk. Fantastic. Drink less. Reduces your risk of type 2 diabetes. So people that have had type 2 diabetes for a very long time, their arteries start to become stiff because glucose sitting in the system for a long period of time when it's uncontrolled does cause stiffness of the arteries. It kind of makes our blood sticky, okay? So what ends up happening is more so in the limbs. Usually people find that they get poor circulation in the limbs, which means that fluid doesn't get out very well and the blood doesn't sort of circulate very well. So that's when we can get a lot of nerve damage from fluid accumulation, yeah? So fluid pressing on the nerves and damaging the nerves, okay? So we call that peripheral neuropathy, which is quite common with people who've had type 2 diabetes, very uncontrolled, so they're not taking care of themselves very well, or they're on the wrong medications. And you also see that with people who have chemotherapy sometimes, okay? So very, very sort of serious medical conditions. And now someone asked about the ulcers. So yes, of course, it is true that when people have very uncontrolled type 2 diabetes and they're not taking care of themselves, and they end up like cutting their leg, like they bump into a chair and they split the skin open, that it can end up in ulceration because of the poor circulation. So lack of blood going down to that system and coming back up. If we don't have blood going down into the extremities, we also don't have nutrients going to the extremities. In addition to that, if our blood is very high in sugar, then it causes more bacterial growth. So things like microbes like to grow in sugar, okay, so in the blood, and so we don't heal very well, okay. That's why it's very important that if someone does have type 2 diabetes, that they keep it well under control. So they see their doctor regularly, they do their blood sugars regularly as well, and it's also important for you guys who might be healthy out there to regularly get your blood tested too, so you can catch it before it happens. Does it affect arteries or the venous system? It's more so it's more so the arteries, I think. Yeah. Okay, good question. Okay, so other tips. Can type 2 be reversed? Okay, depends how far someone's gone. So I wouldn't say it could ever be reversed. We call it goes into remission. So think about once you have type 2 diabetes and it's diagnosed, you can't get rid of it. What you can do is make it lie dormant, which means if you improve your diet and you start exercising and you lose weight and you get your blood sugars under control, you can live like, say, normal or like a healthy person without taking medications and stuff, if you continue along that lifestyle, okay? But as soon as you start to eat like how you were before when you first diagnosed, then the diabetes will come back. So we call it going into remission, not being reversed. Now, what's important to know is that if you only have, say, insulin resistance or pre-diabetes, then it can be reversed. So, yay for people out there. If you've got pre-diabetes or insulin resistance, it can be reversed through diet and exercise. Yes, good question. Good question. So, a lot of people have been throwing out ideas out there, how to reduce your risk. So we had alcohol, we had exercise more. I told you to portion control your meals. The other thing is to avoid processed foods. So someone mentioned soft drink. Definitely try to avoid soft drink. Fruit juices as well. People think that fruit juice is healthy. It's not so healthy if you're drinking all that sugar in one go. So what I would encourage you to have, so what you can eat now, is more of your whole grains, okay? So if you're going to choose to eat carbohydrates, you want to choose low GI carbs. You can use diet drinks if you want, but generally think that, people should get out of the habit of drinking sweet stuff in general. So just get into the habit of having, teas and glasses of water, or, making up your own chilled tea if you want without having so much sugar. What about natural sugars for type 2? Well, look, some natural sugar is okay, so if you're having a piece of fruit or two a day, but it's the excess of carbohydrates. So remember, carbohydrates, we call it an umbrella term for both our starches and our sugars, okay, starches and sugars. So ultimately, we have to keep both in check, whether they're natural or they're added. Do vegans drink milk? No, they don't, because they don't have cow's milk. Whoever asked that. So we have to control both sugars and starches. If you're having, 1 to 2 pieces of fruit per day, that's doable. But if you're having more than that, then that's really hard to control your sugar levels. All right. Any more questions before I take off? Because I was talking really fast that time. So I hope that. Okay, I'm not going to get into that conversation. So guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that gave you a little bit of an insight about how to reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes. Oh, great. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you liked it. And thank you so much for the hearts. I am on every Monday night at, I should say 12 o'clock UK time, 10 p.m. Sydney, Australia time, if you want to watch me every Monday. Should I reduce carbs? You can. It depends, though, how much carbs you're actually having. So, look, if you do need help with your diet, I would recommend that you see a nutritionist or dietitian face-to-face, because it is really hard to kind of say, yes, eat that, no, don't eat that, just by doing this. If someone's going to write up a meal plan for you or give you really good advice about what to eat, they need to do a whole rundown about what you're doing in your lifestyle, how much exercise you do, how old you are, calculate your metabolic needs. Like when I do a consultation with my clients, it takes over an hour to get the information that I need so that I can program appropriate for them. So yeah, see someone face to face. It might save you a lot of hassle. Then you won't have to do fandangled things with your diet. Anyway, guys, thanks so much. I'll talk to you next week, all right?